Hello and welcome to Coffee Lovers TV. On the show today, we're going to be taking a look at BeanBox. BeanBox is a local coffee subscription service. Local meaning they're local to me. They're based out of Seattle, and they are really well known for serving up Seattle roasters and their coffee fresh. They have a really well put together system by which they bring coffee in and send it out to you as fresh as possible. So this is one of the things I think that many other subscription companies don't do well is getting the coffee to you as fresh as they possibly can. They now work with, well, a couple dozen local Pacific Northwest coffee roasters. And what you get with them is these boxes of coffee. Now, this is one of, I think, kind of one of their standard boxes. There's 4 coffees in here. I haven't really taken a too close a look at it yet. And you can start out and just order a box, and they will just decide what to give you. I think they're pretty good at making things really simple. So they kind of boil it down to some simple flavor descriptions on the coffees, and then they have roast level sort of categorization, so light, medium, and dark. So you can think about the coffee simply that way. What we're going to do today is open up this box, take a look at the coffees that are in here, and then we're going to try each of them and see how it goes. I think one of the things I like about this kind of program is most people who are just looking to get into drinking really good coffee, it can be really hard to know just what to get. So having someone pick out coffees that are good takes a lot of that uncertainty out of the equation. So you can be certain when you order coffee from here, you're going to get good coffee. And then you can also know that you're going to get a range of some interesting experiences so that you can try a number of things. Even if you know exactly what you like, it's still fun to just try new coffees. And knowing that you're getting coffee fresh and basically directly from the roaster. Although the coffees don't come from the roaster, they go to BeanBox first, and then they repackage them into their little experiences here. And I'm going to show you in a second what that's like. I think that's actually better than working through. There are some systems where you order from a company that has a bunch of roasters, and then they basically just have the roasters send the coffee to you. That's not really, honestly, that's not the best experience for the roaster. And because of that, it ends up not being the best experience for you. In this way, everything is under control of BeanBox and of the experiences that they're trying to create for you. So without continuing to ramble too much, here's BeanBox. So this is one of the things I roasted with love in Seattle, Washington. That's where all these roasters are from, this area, the Seattle area. Not all the roasters are specifically physically in Seattle, but they're in the surrounding Seattle areas. And BeanBox is Seattle located. So we do have this really nice packaging. And they include, let's see here. So they got some interesting information here. Some stats on coffee, information on subscriptions through them. So when you start off, you'll start off with kind of, I think just what they send you. You might get some custom decisions up front to like kind of maybe the roast level. They did give me this box, and this is kind of, yeah, we got a nice range of light, medium, and sort of medium dark roasts in here. So this is kind of what you might expect to get. So some nice information there about BeanBox and about coffee, and a little letter from the founders, so that's kind of nice. I think they always have some chocolates in there, so a little chocolate, that's kind of fun. Take a look at what we got. So this is an Ethiopia from Longshoreman's Daughter coffee roaster. They have this as a medium. And they have a description from the roaster on here and a description from BeanBox. So that's what these are. I think what I'll do is I'll go through these quickly, and then I'll go through each of them individually when I get to brewing them. So we have from Vashon Island Coffee Roastery, the Orca blend. This is more of a dark, a medium dark. They have 5 beans as their roast level guide, and this is the 4th one. So there is a level darker than this. We got a coffee from Seattle Coffee Works, Bali Kintamani Natural. This is gonna be fun to taste. I've actually had this coffee from Seattle Coffee Works before. Yeah, this was a while ago, so I had last year's harvest of this coffee, so it'll be interesting to try out this year's. And a coffee from Conduit Coffee, the Congo, Muungano. This is a really good coffee. I actually haven't had a chance to dig into this coffee yet, so this is fun. That's surprising to me, but Conduit has a lot of really good coffees right now. Okay, let's see. Nice little coupon code, and what else is in here? Oh, this is fun. A little gift card to Hello Fresh in the box. So that's cute. Some fun little things in the box as well as the coffees. All right, so I'm gonna set the box aside and then I'm gonna start off with the lighter roasted coffees because as we get into the darker roasted coffees, they are going to overtake my taste buds and my palate, and I want to be able to taste everything. So I'm gonna just start with, let me take a description of these. So I'm looking at, Condo's description of the Congo, cherry, sweet spice cocoa, Seattle Coffee Works description of their Bali, grapefruit candy sweetness. I'm guessing that the Bali and the Congo, also knowing the Bali, I think this is gonna be a bit brighter. So I'm gonna start out with this one, because I think this one is gonna have some nice brightness to it, but it's probably gonna be a little chocolatey. So I'm gonna start with the Bali, then go with the Congo, then we're gonna go with the Ethiopia from Longshoreman's Daughter, and then the darker roast from Vashon Island Coffee Roastery. So for those of you wondering, I'm going to be brewing all of these on the Kalita Wave. I'm just really familiar with the Kalita Wave right now and what I can get out of coffees with it. So I'm gonna be brewing on the Wave. Let's have a smell of this Bali. It's fruit smell right in the nose. This is a very lightly roasted coffee. I had another Bali recently as well. Seattle Coffee Works description of this: grapefruit candy sweetness, long finish with raspberry notes. A dry nut-toned chocolate rounds out the cup. And they make a note that it's an untypical Indonesian. I think most Indonesian coffees kind of end up in the earthy sphere of flavors. But this Bali, this is my experience with the Bali Kintamani. It's very fruity and not earthy at all. Okay, BeanBox description: with a sparkly tang of grapefruit and the dark sweetness of honey roasted nuts, this beautiful Balinese coffee invites you out to Sunday brunch. How nice. It's funny, I read that now. I kind of smell like mimosa in here. Like it does kind of have that sparkly, citrusy, mimosa-like aroma to it. Oh, that's fun. Thanks. Okay, we'll go ahead and brew this and then come back to the video. All right, and we're back. We've just brewed up the Seattle Coffee Works Bali Kintamani Natural. As I was brewing the coffee, the grounds had this incredibly wonderful, like sweet peach aroma, and the brew here is very, very fruity smelling. Wow, grapefruit. Grapefruit is intensely accurate. I mean, I know that that is the description on here, so it's gonna pop in my head, but it really is, really does taste of grapefruit. Like it's a really good, yeah, pink grapefruit. It's got some nice sweetness to it, and there is that tang, a little bit of that edge that grapefruit has. So Seattle Coffee Works also describes a dry, nut-toned chocolate rounding out the cup. Yeah, you know, I think I can see that. There is this like nice rich body to it. Not rich body in the way that a dark chocolate has a really rich body, but it's not like tea. So it does have a nice sort of roundness to it that you could see as chocolatey. That is pretty nicely balanced, actually. BeanBox describes honey roasted nuts. I think they're both talking about the same thing there. Seattle Coffee Works calls it a nut-toned chocolate, and BeanBox, the honey roasted nuts, it's this kind of deeper sweetness that makes it just have a bit more body. Versus, like I mentioned tea because I think a lot of light roasted coffees, especially fruity ones, can come off like tea, and this does not. It cools nicely. I'm not gonna wait around for this to cool because I wanna get through all of these, but it's already cooling in the cup, and I can tell as it cools it's gonna get smoother and sweeter. That's a really nicely light roasted coffee that does that. I'm probably gonna regret this since I'm brewing up 4 batches for this video, but this coffee is so good, I'm gonna finish this whole batch. While I finish up the rest of this this Bali from Seattle Coffee Works, that was our first coffee. Next is going to be Conduit Coffee's Congo Muungano. Conduit describes the description of this. Coffees from Africa continue to amaze us. The latest is this Congo Muungano. Dark red fruit aromas lead to notes of cherry and sweet spiced cocoa. Enjoy this complex and worldly coffee. So this is gonna be fun. BeanBox's description: cherry spice and everything nice. This roast has a lot of intense fruit flavor in a light, refreshing package. Let it be the cherry on top of your Sunday, or Monday or Tuesday. As I move through this, I've started with the Bali. It's got a nice crisp very brightness to it. It does have a bit more richness supporting it than some other light roasted coffees. I'm expecting the Congo to be a bit richer, perhaps, a bit spicier, a little bit different, maybe a little more rounded. I don't think it's going to be as light and bright as this coffee, but that's just my guess. I have not opened this yet. I obviously can't keep drinking this and start smelling this coffee, so we're going to call that good. Let's get to the Congo. All right. So yeah, it's got really rich sugary fruitness to it. My initial reaction is like bananas, not like banana. Oh wait, hold on. Maybe bananas. Maybe like really sweet pumpkin. What is that? It's this sugary, fruity, sugary sweetness, but it's not like a berry fruit. It's like a really sugary and delicious smelling. Really sugary smelling. That's like the hallmark of just opening this bag, is this flood of like sugary, fruity sweetness. Now it is kind of turning into raisins. Okay. Oh, this is gonna be, ooh, and like some kind of pastry, maybe. There's lots of really good sugars in this. It's definitely not as lightly roasted as the Bali, just looking at it visually. I mean, it's still a light roasted coffee. All right, I could go on and on smelling this. I'm gonna go ahead and brew this, and then we'll be right back with round 2. All right, we're back with Conduit's Congo. As I was brewing this, I, of course, again, smelled the grounds very strongly of like cherry preserves, really sugary, fruity aroma. The smell of this is like, kind of smells like a cupcake. Like, it's a little subtle. Whereas the dry aroma is extremely strongly of sugary fruit. It smells sweet, and I can smell the berry on it. On first taste, it's really rich and date-like, like that kind of rich, sugary sweetness. There's a good layer of like chocolatiness to it, though. It's got a lot of rich flavors, rich and complex flavors to it. And as I expected too, it doesn't have like a really bright citrusy edge to it. In fact, like on the top end, I would actually describe it as like cherry preserves or something like that. So I mean, it does have a little bit of that bright bite to it, but there's a lot of sweetness going along with it as well. Oh yes, there's supposed to be spice in here as well. Maybe that's, am I seeing spice? If I'm seeing spice, it's part of the larger picture that's kind of coming to my mind. Cherry preserve cupcake. Like maybe there's some spice wrapped up around in that. But I can't help but taste and see some like more complex flavor as a part of this. Like my mind keeps going back to cupcake with like sugary cherries and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I could see spice around the edges, like spice from like a cinnamon or nutmeg kind of perspective, just kind of making everything a bit more complex and interesting. So that's a really good coffee, really good coffee. And a nice step too, to go from the Bali to the Congo. That was the Congo Muungano by Conduit Coffee. Next up we have, by Longshoreman's Daughter Coffee Roaster, we have Ethiopia Cava, a washed coffee. In their description, the word coffee comes from Cava, Ethiopia's southwestern province. Notes of blackberry, cola, lemon lime acidity, buttery honey floral finish. Sounds like this will be a nice sort of approachable Ethiopian. Like from that description, I'm expecting to get some nice fruit flavors, but it'll have some good body and it'll be smooth and maybe simple as well. BeanBox's description. These beans are grown among the wild plants of Cava forest. This might explain all of the flavors in this cup. Cola, lime, nectarine, a lip-smacking honey butter ending. Surprisingly delicious with cream. So yeah, so this is more of a medium roast, so give it a smell. I can definitely smell the roastiness on it, and the fruit richness in there as well. But it's subtle. It's not as smack in your face as the Congo. So there's a roastiness to the smell. There's also a deep, smooth sweetness, like pastry-like sweetness to it. And I can smell fruit kind of hiding under there as well. So let's we're gonna go ahead and brew this. This Longshoreman's Daughter Ethiopia Cava washed, and then we'll be right back. And we're back, about to enjoy the Ethiopia Cava washed by Longshoreman's Daughter. As I was brewing it, the aroma of the grounds was definitely very smoky. I couldn't pick up much more than that. Well, smoky coffee aroma. And the brew has a very like coffee-like smell to it. I'm not picking up, like if I didn't know this was Ethiopian, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you that. I should say that I don't drink too many darker roasted coffees. Not because I hate dark roast or anything like that. I just think that they're really hard to do well. I suppose I'm probably a little picky, but let's have a taste. So I can definitely taste the roastiness on this coffee. There's a good level of sweetness to it as well. Just like in the aroma, I think there's fruit to it. It's kind of behind everything else. Actually has a really good level of richness to it. I'm definitely starting to see the fruit more a bit as it cools, but it's like I mean the roasty sort of component of this is very apparent. Not necessarily in a bad way. Maybe that's kind of like the cola aspect that I'm kind of tasting, like syrupy cola sort of taste. It's interesting. I think I disagree a little bit with the complexity of the description here. I think it's actually quite simple. I definitely agree with the sort of buttery honey finish. Buttery honey finish. Because even though there is a good roastiness to it, it does smooth out, and it doesn't linger too much on the tongue. It's just nice and smooth finish. And there is a fruit element to it, but it's not overtly fruity. It's not fruity like the Bali or the Congo. It definitely had distinct fruit, like acidic fruit components to them. And like the Congo is really tasting of like cherries and fig and like sugary fruit. This tastes smooth and buttery, maybe a little like fruity pancakes. It's a subtle fruit to it. It's not overt, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. I suppose if I thought about it, I could see lime, because there is kind of a brightness to it. But to me, the roastiness and the smoothness kind of dominate the whole cup. I think that perhaps this wants some, maybe a little cream and sugar. Like if that's your what you like to do with your coffee in the morning, then this kind of thing could be really good. One thing that is notable for sure is that aside from the roasty edge, it's really smooth and there's no bitterness to it beyond the kind of standard coffee bitterness. One thing I forgot to note about BeanBox is that if you really like you're gonna get, in the boxes you're gonna get a sampling like this. If you really like one of the coffees, you can buy just that coffee through BeanBox, which is really cool. So if you really liked like the smooth roastiness of this, and that's what you want, you can. I think you can get boxes that are more like this. I think you can kind of tailor your boxes to be more darker roasted, maybe some more darker roasted Ethiopians, that sort of thing. But you can also just go get this specific Ethiopia from Longshoreman's Daughter through BeanBox, so that's really cool. We're gonna move on to the last one, the fourth, and this is Vashon Island Coffee Roastery's Orca blend. This is a notch darker than the Ethiopia, so this will be interesting for me. They call this a medium dark roast. Vashon Island's description: our Orca blend is rich, complex, earthy, and well-balanced. A mysterious, deep blend of harmonious overtones created in tribute to the killer whale. Earthy is like the only part of this description that I can attach like a flavor expectation to. Like rich, complex, and well-balanced could apply to a lot of coffees. And it doesn't necessarily tell you what the coffee is gonna taste like. Mysterious and deep, I don't know, doesn't mean much. But we have BeanBox's description. Let's take a look. A medium dark roast with juicy black currant and lingering chocolate notes. That is a very helpful description. Thank you, BeanBox. So juicy black currant, lingering chocolate notes. This actually sounds like I might enjoy this, even though it's darker than the Ethiopia, I might enjoy this even more. Like I mentioned before, I don't usually drink dark roasted coffees. Once you start getting into that darker roast, it's really easy to get this like carbonization flavor that just kind of lingers and pervades, and I just tend to be kind of, I don't know, sensitive to that. Like if it's there, that's often overpowering to me. But let's I'm not going to go into this with preconceived notions other than it's juicy black currant with lingering chocolate notes. This is cute. So I didn't finish BeanBox's description. A coffee this smooth is as rare as spotting an orca in the wild, but please no harpoons. Don't harpoon your coffee, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, Oh, that smells really good. It's interesting. It definitely is dark, but it doesn't come off as smoky. It comes off as well, roasty, yes, not smoky, but roasty. This is like, I think this is like one of those smells of coffee that a lot of people fall in love with when they first run into coffee, is just this deep, rich, roasty smell. That's just, it's satisfying to smell. And here I am using vague descriptions as well. Deep and rich. Well, it is really hard to describe coffee. This is very oily. There's actually some oil left on the valve on the inside of the bag, and the coffee beans are very wet looking. So we're definitely dealing with the dark. I mean, it's a blend of what looks like a really dark roast and a medium roast. That may be where some of the balance comes from. But we're gonna roast this up and then see what we see. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back with Vashon Island Coffee Roastery's Orca blend. I think I said I was gonna go roast the coffee. Naturally, I meant brew. But that's what happens when you do 4 batches of coffee in a row, and I've already had a couple today of other coffees. Anyways, to the Orca blend. So as I was brewing it, the ground aroma was actually, I wasn't enjoying the ground aroma that much, to be honest. It had kind of a meaty smell to it, which was weird. The beans were really, really greasy, but that's all right. You know, it's a dark roast. One thing I do really appreciate about this box, the selection box, the range is extreme, from really light to really, I mean, pretty dark. I mean, the BeanBox has another level of dark roast on here, and probably the reason this doesn't hit that is that half the beans in here are very much not as dark as the other half. I mean, it's a blend of, I think a blend of 2 different coffees, at least a blend of 2 different kinds of roasts distinctly, just visually looking at the beans. So quite a range of roast styles, quite a range of flavor experiences. That's one of the best things about doing something like this, is you get to try a big range, and you get to try things from a number of different roasters. And these are all excellent roasters, doing some really cool stuff in their own style, own distinctive style of roasting, and that's a lot of fun to try that. So let's go ahead and have a try of this. The aroma to me is really carbony, maybe a little rubbery. I don't know if that's an accurate, fair description of the coffee from the aroma, but that is how it's kind of hitting me right now. The taste is actually quite smooth and pleasant for a dark roast. Definitely get the roastiness on there. Not that smoky, pretty smooth, and I do get that juiciness. BeanBox's description included a juicy black currant with lingering chocolate notes. And I think that's a pretty darn accurate description of this. The juiciness is really hard to explain for me. It's something that when I drink the coffee, it just kind of pops in my head, oh, that's juicy. And there's just something about the way the flavors and the oils bounce around the mouth that just comes off as juicy, versus coffees that don't have that. And then maybe on the other end are coffees that are perhaps a bit dry, I guess might be the opposing description. Maybe it's when the flavors just kind of fill your mouth and just kind of dance around the tongue that it kind of comes off as juicy. And I do get that black currant a little bit. There's an interesting layer of a little bit of fruitiness to it. It's subtle, but to me it's more like just how it's kind of dancing around. And then dark chocolate. The chocolate part of this is not very sweet. It's a little bit bitter, but that's really balanced out, I think, by that juiciness and that kind of black currant. Taste-wise, this is actually a pretty tasty dark roast. I don't really get charcoal or carbon that much on it. I think maybe it's dancing close to that, but it's coming off as dark chocolate to me, not roastiness or carbon. So we've gone all the way from a really light roasted Bali that was coming off like grapefruit, then we went into this like sugary sweet fig and raisin and what did I say, cherry like compote sort of thing, into the smooth, subtle berry, buttery honey kind of coffee, and into this dark, rich, juicy coffee here. So that's quite a range. Really, really fun to experience that. If the idea of this sounds fun to you, I've linked BeanBox in the description below. Go check them out. Even if you have coffees that you love, I think it's still really fun to try something out like this and just experience a bunch of new things. You never know what you might discover, and you're not gonna discover that unless you give it a try. So that's BeanBox. This is just one example of the boxes that they offer. They work with, I think I mentioned, a couple dozen different roasters now, so they have a huge selection to choose from, and it's a lot of fun. So go check them out. Thank you for watching the video today. If you have any thoughts, comments, suggestions, just hit up the comments below the video. Again, check out the description below for links to BeanBox and all of that coffee goodness. And thank you for watching.